As we move on, of course, Johnny Storm, that Human Torch, creeping in as the drafts and those new hero releases come on out. We're heading into the draft, and it looks like we're going to be seeing All Business getting the first Protect out here, as we're going to see the Magneto Mirror Man.
Yeah, Magneto taken off of the table, so no Bulwark bubbles coming on through to stop dives, and also no Meteor M to be able to absorb entire ultimates, like a Galactic Legend from Star-Lord or parts of Supernova from that Torch. Zero Tenacity already going to be breaking from what we traditionally see, removing the Luna first to weaken the resources that Tuzi is going to have access to before they secure Smashnez's Torch to be able to go toe-to-toe with him. Potentially we see a Psylocke get removed as well from Zero Tenacity side, and then I wonder if they go for the Inviswoman last.
It's a good question. We did see Zero Tenacity play extremely aggressive with this Torch, using the high ground of being in T'Challa last time, those lower walls from the entranceways to the actual open hallways to snipe down and make it very hard to hit Smashnez. But like you said, they have a Invisible Woman as an option for that to potentially protect flyers. Loki will get banned out, keeping it nice and simple just in case there's a little bit of backline dive as well. Zero Tenacity, they have that Wolverine comp that could be at least protected slightly against from Loki.
Something to note is that Zero Tenacity have not saved a single Vanguard so far. If All Business really want to target the roll down, they could remove the Emma Frost from Zero Tenacity side, as we're going to see Zero Tenacity take out the Psylocke, and yeah, there it is. All Business remove the Emma, and having saved the Emma, if Zero Tenacity want any form of dive in that composition, they're going to have to be incredibly worried about the counterplay that comes on through when they try and hit the back line off of either Diamond Form, Carbon Crush from the Emma, or even a Bionic Hook from the Bucky.
One-sided Luna coming in for Zero Tenacity. So they now have the Torch and the Luna to keep them sustained. They could even, like you said, go for a little bit of a one-sided Psylocke in from their own side to try and snipe in. Will we see All Business focus the Vanguards with the Emma already down? They're looking at Strange really target that single roll, and that's a lot of those big barrier heroes getting removed. Options, if they choose to go for it, would be limited, but no, they take out the Atom. We were just talking about it. It's exactly what Zero Tenacity ran in their first matchup, using the triple res setup with the Human Torch instead of the Star-Lord.
Yeah, and this is going to make, if All Business want to run the Torch and the Ultron together, they're definitely going to have a much easier time staying up in the sky. Looks like they're going to prioritize picking up the Loki. We could see that they were toying with the idea of banning out the Strange from Zero Tenacity side, as we have known that Zero Tenacity are one of the few teams actually comfortable rolling solo Vanguard as, okay, Zero Tenacity, target ban the Torch. Tuzi is removed out of 2 of his roles and is likely going to be forced onto either the Punisher or potentially something like that Star-Lord, as unfortunately for both of the sides, Cloak and Dagger is going to be in play, but I think for Zero Tenacity, they want to prioritize having the Invis for the synergy between the siblings.
Tuzi has so far this season of Ignite shown Psylocke, Torch, Punisher, Hela, and for a very short period, Iron Man. The Punisher, as we've seen this season, is the most reliable, safe option to start off with the possibility to swap off if need be. And of course, Slowpoke starting on the Storm. If they're not planning on running a Mantis, it's at least a little bit of damage boost, and then combining that with the Cloak and Dagger means the Punisher can have an extremely good time.
I do worry though, if Zero Tenacity do stick with the Invis over the Cloak and Dagger, one of the ways that a lot of the teams have been counterplaying the invisible boundary is by having that Cloak and Dagger use Eternal Bond to be able to invade into that space, and then Terror Cape comes through, which applies that 28% damage vulnerability for the next 3 seconds, which does not get cleansed by the Invis ultimate, so it is going to be a major weakness in the composition when Zero Tenacity try and use something that should give them stability.
Knudsen starting on the Winter Soldier, knowing that there'll be a little bit of mobility around. Potentially a flyer can try and ping him out the air with a Tainted Voltage, and they don't go for any kind of traps or quick pickups. They go for positioning due to the fact that they have the Torch, and they can now try to punish on the approach.
Yeah, Lugia is actually on the Captain America as well, going to be trying to go in, disrupt as much of All Business as possible to deprive resources and set up potential for this Punisher. As at the moment, Zero Tenacity have to give respect. They're waiting for the dive to come come through. They turn around, see the Captain America, but at the same time, Lucas being able to pick Snos. That's absolutely huge. All business are down a major source of resources, and it's going to be up to Tuzi to try and give them the space to stabilize with this Punisher turret, but he's getting pressured out by Smashness, who drops outside of it, and Zero Tenacity are still in full control at this point.
But no one's been able to actually get any percentage on the board. There comes the pickup onto Welsh Mania from Smashness, moving in with that maelstrom of madness. They are chasing back the members of All Business. Zero Tenacity taking advantage of the fact they had the position. All Business had to move in to capitalize and punish anyone who overstepped, and they claim the first percentage on the board.
Oasis should be able to get one of the first ultimates on the board, but is likely going to hold on to it until Ducky 1 has the Eye of Agamotto to get the damage boost for the 40% push onto that Maelstrom of Madness. Smashness slowly but surely building up to that Supernova, also making it incredibly tricky for All Business to approach. It's going to be a reliance on Welsh Mania. Dive into the backline, force the peel. Frontline core is going to have to try and turn their heads and deal with this one, as out comes Eternal Bond from closer so that All Business can get aggressive. They've got the picks too. Tenacity though, they're stubborn, they're trying to fight this one out.
Using that final judgment to zone everyone away, but it's gonna be All Business with that who claim the point. Zero Tenacity tried to duel it, but it was not enough. Just an overwhelming rush by All Business, but they burnt 2 big ultimates for it. Traded out though, we did see a Kraken impact and an invisible boundary, so it works out as a 2 for 2, which is huge news for All Business.
All Business though, they have to worry. They can't stack up right now. If they get hit into Eye of Agamotto, it's going to be a Maelstrom of Madness that will be able to find picks unless Nos is able to come through with that regeneration domain. They're trying to just break as much terrain as possible as well, keeping an eye on where this range could potentially be. Tuzi sees the Captain America, repositions the peels there. Supernova's going to try and split the team in half, and at the same time, they're able to hit into the back lines. Nos on that Loki is down. God of Mischief now being removed from this fight, and it's up to Freedom Charge to hold the point instead.
Giving them a lot of bonus health. Eye of Agamotto from above onto the backline with the fate of both worlds, and they clean on up. Zero Tenacity will recap there with an insane move out, but they are now down to just the Freedom Charge. That is all that is left in terms of their ultimates. Welsh Mania already using theirs for All Business, but they still have Psionic Seduction. They still have Rage of Ultron, and they have any ultimates they want, most likely an Eternal Bond moving in there from Znos on that Loki, who's already going in for the clone to set it up.
Yeah, already going in. So too is Slowpo. Rage of Ultron comes out to make sure that All Business can safely intrude with the Eternal Bond and get close enough to the point to use the Terror Kit when Zero Tenacity try and come through for the recontest. Eternal Bond of the copy is now removed, but Closer is going to have another ultimate in this fight. Psionic Seduction is looking for the picks. They're trying to take down Smashness before the touch can hit that Supernova. Around the corner though, Zero Tenacity are able to stabilize. Carbon Crush almost kicks the Invis Limit into the team, but manages to take Winnie down, and All Business are finding the picks that they need to keep this fight firmly in their control.
It's currently 83 to 60% in favor of Zero Tenacity, but All Business hold the point right now. Ultimates, Tuzi, another final judgment is an incredible tool to try and finish this. Supernova, Eye of Agamotto nearly ready, with the Supernova already up, invisible boundary to protect that torch. We saw an incredible use of that Guardian barrier to keep Smashness up after Torch landed that Psionic Seduction, meaning that they were able to retreat and keep that torch nearby so they can siege in and regroup.
It's not going to be enough. The Invis boundary is going to get counterplayed. The Eternal Bond, there it is. Final judgment, Tuzi's in, but Knutson comes through with an absolute hero moment. Grabs the Punisher, takes him down before Final Judgment can shred through the entirety of the team. Eternal Bond still up though. Closer has not fallen. Now the Cloak and Dagger ultimate is done, but Slowpo's got the next cycle. Rage of Ultron isn't even needed. It's kept in the pocket for the next round. And Zero Tenacity try and keep overtime in play with a portal.
They're running people in one at a time, but that means they're getting taken down one at a time. Portal coming out as that bar is ticking lower and lower. Immediately locks down with the carbon, crushes the crystal kick, but they're still able to hold the line. Newton with some lovely shots from above with a healing output, with the Rage of Ultron. It's just a little bit too good. Kraken impact for the last-ditch effort. Resets on Loki, clone number 1. Bionic hook onto Loki, the real one this time, to try and get the finishing blow, but picked off by the running in Tuzi, who also swapped to Strange for the reinforcement. And with the Eternal Bond, it looks like we're going to see Cap clean down, and All Business are just running it down here to keep control and stop Zero Tenacity from reclaiming.
What a play from two. We absolutely need to toot the horn of that one. That was Carbon Crush canceling Eye of Agamotto. As Zero Tenacity with Ducky fell through that portal, he was trying to come through with the Eye of Agamotto, and that would have succeeded in finding picks to Zero Tenacity's side, and then maybe the Kraken impact off of the Loki clone resets would have been able to find the fight win that they were looking to use to hold on. As it is, a lot of those ultimates got sunk into that last fight. Ducky 1 was CC'd out of his ultimate, so he at least retains 50% charge forward and actually was able to build up a further 35% in the fight that followed, so he'll have it online. But unfortunately for them, Oasis is not going to have that Fate of Both Worlds to be able to boost it up.
You can see here a lot of ults being protected. Only a rocket being swapped over for the side of Zero Tenacity. No rocket or penny for All Business. They're going in without any of that bonus health, but they were going to Terra Cape for a quick speed boost.
Yeah, All Business going to be rolling on out. Very close to that Eternal Bond. Tuesday should be able to get Final Judgment up online in no time too. Zero Tenacity need to win this fight so that they don't have to play retake into a Punisher that has all of the space in the world to set up and keep Smashness on this torch grounded. He's having to play around all of the natural cover, making sure that he doesn't get poke pressured out. Keeps an eye on the Captain America too, so that they know when Watchmania is going to try and hit the backline and force Zero Tenacity's attention to split.
Ducky currently trying to hold the point, keep control, holding with that Silent Seduction until they see a couple more members of Zero Tenacity emerge from their hidden spots. They found them from behind that pillar and will try and commit to this to try and stop the setup on that Punisher, but it's not going to be enough. Forcing out the regeneration domain, and no one's going to get pulled in as Lugia going to keep the team topped up. Eye of Agamotto catches multiple members, culling turret to block the crowd control.
Huge grab as well from 2. Maelstrom gets through, but no follow-up damage after the fact. But Supernova is still sounding off, and Smashness and everyone else on the ground are able to target focus one by one. All Business's players are down. Tuesday is going to have the Final Judgment, but crucially, Closer does not have the Eternal Bond. It's going to be a reliance on the God of Mischief coming on through from Zenost instead. But Zero Tenacity, with a Final Judgment of their own, might be able to take the Punisher down. The thing that can really change this fight, though, is that Terror Cape. If Closer and Zenost are both on the Cloak and Dagger, that's 2 Terror Capes from their end.
They could get a serious amount of damage up, and especially if they're able to stagger them together to combo with that Punisher and with that Ultron, Range of Ultron AoE into that Terror Cape could really set them up as the first one is going to come on out. Noct does go for the clone, and here they come. Eternal Bonds holding the line, at least for the moment, as Tuzi and Newton both taken down simultaneously here. No Punishers in this fight, as both teams are just sustaining on through with the help of those big strategist ultimates to keep everyone topped up, chasing down onto Slowpoke to try and finish them off with those shotgun-like blasts from Smashness, but unable to do so. The healing output is just too much, and Zero Tenacity are ever so slightly zoned off the point, regroup and try to go back in, but no! Tuzi returns, and with the help of Slowpoke, zones them off the point.
They're trying to fight it still, though. Invis Boundary gets invested. Ducky one's going to be coming through with the Eye of Agamotto, and it catches the entirety of All Business's back line. Fight instantly swings back into their favor, and they did it while retaining full possession of the point the entire way through. A late stagger pick onto Slowpoke nets them almost 80%, and we barrel towards final fight territory. All Business, yes, have the Eternal Bond and the Rage of Ultron, but it's going to be a portal play to avoid the pokes so that they don't allow Zero Tenacity to build up ultimates before this fight properly starts.
Culling turret through the portal so they can at least siege in the Loki firing squad. Also sending a couple shots down, but here they go in for the commit. Trying to find Newton on the flank, but Smashness is uncontested, using the portal for extra cover here as they've rushed off the point in some cases to try and zone away the members of Zero Tenacity. All Business are giving everything they can. Lugia pushing on to try and keep everyone zoned away with that freedom charge to create any space they can. Smashness finds Closer, removing at least some of the healing. Strange comes in for the melee and takes them out with a Maelstrom. Rage of Ultron to try and hold, but All Business, they're starting to get ever so slightly zoned out. They've claimed the point, but with Final Judgment for Zero Tenacity, they're going to try and end this here.
Znos tries to go for the copy, manages to find the fate of both worlds from the opposing sides. Luna, both of the dance floors are sounding on off, but unfortunately, Tuzi's final judgment is still reigning supreme. He comes on through with the later, manages to catch Knuten as this just ends, and All Business will be able to hold on, but it was a huge investment. That's already the teleport recontest gone from their side. Ducky 1 should be able to come on through with one of their own, as well as having that invis boundary to give them a nice safeguard if a freedom charge aggressively tries to hit the backline.
On the other side, we have 55% on Rage of Ultron, 84 on Tututut with that Eye of Agamotto for a potential turnaround. On the strategists, though, Rage of Ultron is all they have, 33% on Closar, 20 on Snot. They're relying on Welsh Mania with the Freedom Charge, which will be activated to give them that bonus health with a sort of pseudo-strategist ultimate here. Eye of Agamotto sent on in, but Force Physics pushes them back.
Oh, that's so unfortunate though, because Force Physics actually meant that it connects onto Oasis. That being said, Ducky 1's Eye of Agamotto with the Maelstrom follow-up is slightly more successful, and that is going to be Zero Tenacity just having to deal with these late-minute staggers from All Business's side. Point is cleared, and we go another round of Krakoa. We said that it is a potential 5-mapper between these two teams, and with how much of a seesaw Cradle really felt like, feels like we're gonna be headed down that path, Tetcher.
5 maps, 7 rounds per map in some of those convoys. We could be seeing some intense matchups between these teams as they try to find any space, try to find any way that they can claim a victory. Already 10 final hits for Tuzi with 19k damage, but it's being dwarfed by Smashness and Knuten with 21k and 22k damage just being unleashed, with the triple strategist spreading out that healing to try and make sure that Tuzi is uncontested.
Yeah, Tuzi and Slowpoke are trying to do something very similar to what Knuten and Smashness are doing. If you look at one, the one up in the air gets way more space, vice versa too. However, Torch and Punish's damage output is slightly higher than a hero whose role is designated as a strategist, despite the numbers that they can indeed post on up. And the breakpoints and quickness that a Torch can take you down is much faster in comparison to the Ultron 2. Speaking about takedowns, Zero Tenacity are looking for a very fast one. Calling Turret comes on through. This angle not really buying Knuten all that much, and dissatisfied with it, he decides to drop out early and join his team on the low ground.
Rage of Ultron being dropped, charged up from last fight, saved. They just ran their whole body onto the point instead of burning that ultimate, trying to get onto the pickup. Lovely taking out Knuten there, but will be run on down by Lugia and chased, picked off with that fearless leap.
Zero Tenacity now, they really wanted to win that first fight, and the fact that they invested that teleport recontest is going to make it pretty dicey to get Smashness aerial up against all of the space and angles that All Business are going to be able to control. Both Tuzi and Slowpoke, and even Xenos to a degree, need to make sure that you find out the angles that those are playing from so that you can avoid it. Smashness is getting some support from the team, at least with the Idol Aura coming on through from the Luna, and there is good cover around it as Zero Tenacity decides, you know what, we're just gonna charge on in. Freedom Charge and Final Judgment get paired together as All Business hold on to their ultimates and pay for it with their lives.
Watchmania was about to run in, realized that their team was very much zoned out, so they kind of just got stuck in limbo. Gets picked off for their troubles. As we see Slowpoke taken out as well, Zero Tenacity taking control of the point. All Business, they already got 40% on it though. They were able to get a lovely early pickup.
And they've got both strategist ultimates, a Freedom Charge upcoming, and a Final Judgment. Zero Tenacity, in the meantime, they do have Oasises, but that's not going to stand up to snuff underneath all of the damage that can potentially come through from All Business side, especially if the Nos goes for an aggressive copy. Fate of both worlds is going to be safeguarding the Punisher, but Smashness forces them to have to stick on the Q Aura rather than the damage boost, and that means that no picks have come through. Zero Tenacity buy themselves the time to come back in with the Eye of Agamotto. Supernova still out. Smashness still a threat for All Business to have to deal with, as they don't have the luxury of being able to look up.
Trying to lock onto them with that Ultron, retreating into at least some of the healing with that invisible boundary. Rage of Ultron going in for that aerial duel with the Psionic Seduction to try and lock down the backliners. They can't focus on that torch yet until they take everyone else out, but finally they can turn it, using the Flaming Meteor to try and dodge out and get back onto the point for a turnaround, but they are extremely outnumbered. Yet another flip as All Business are taking back control with, yeah, you mentioned it, an aggressive God of Mischief from Xenos who just tried to overpower, and that forced out so many resources and so much scattering from Zero Tenacity that All Business were able to pick people off.
Zero Tenacity, though, they do have the combo that we saw previously, and even without both the Luna and the Invis's investment, it seems they're more than happy to just send Lugia charging on through, Knuten behind him when the Freedom Charge hits. And speaking about behind, Lugia is already all the way behind. We're going to try and leap on through. Pyro Prison has shut out a lot of the space that All Business could try and rotate away from that Captain America. In fact, it's forced them off the point entirely. Zero Tenacity have been able to get Knuten into such a good position that they might be able to find the flip if anyone tries to get closest force physics into annihilation.
They are dominating right now, full control. Finally, they're going to be able to rush on them with the Scourge Grenade. Knuten backs up to the high ground and is just getting ready to send a couple shots. Like you say, they know there's only one person left with the stagger, chasing down Slowpoke. We are at 83 compared to 69 for Zero Tenacity. All Business in the lead. Zero Tenacity hold control.
They've got Supernova in the next fight. They're also going to have the Eye of Agamotto and the Fate of Foeforce to be able to damage boost it. All Business need to have a hero play moment. Rage of Ultron can potentially be that turning factor, but it's going to be up to Tuesday with the Final Judgment to be the final that All Business needs to be able to take this fight through. Smashness is getting pressured, doesn't go for the full commitment. Out comes the Eye of Agamotto into the Supernova follow-up that's already forced out that regeneration domain. Invis boundary has to be invested so that All Business can go on to that point in anticipation of the overtime. And Zero Tenacity give it away. They know that there's another fight afterwards, and that All Business burned a lot of their ultimates just to hold that space.
This does mean this is likely going to come down to one last fight, with All Business also approaching their own overtime here. And look what they were able to keep. They did burn that Rage of Ultron, they burned that Invisible Boundary, but they still have Final Judgment. They still have God of Mischief, and they are very soon about to have their own Freedom Charge, which is giving a huge amount of extra bonus. Nice lockdown to try and trap Lugia, who's rushing on in to create some space. Portal comes out from W, so their team can come in for the reinforce, not onto the point, as they don't want to get caught out by Toot.
No, he went into the back line. They've already been able to take down Tuzi, which means that Knuten's Final Judgment is entirely uncontested. Inside the Invis boundary, it might not be enough to stand up against an Eternal Bond, but it stands up against nothing. All Business are wiped out in the blink of an eye. It's going to have to be a teleport play that comes on through from closer, but the body block is there. So too is the Culling Turret. The Strange steps through and is taken down immediately, and Zero Tenacity walk away with Krakoa under control.
What a close game, coming down to literal seconds. Trying to swap in with the Loki at the end. If they just got that regeneration domain up in time, they might have been able to make something happen. If they'd just been able to swap bodies in time, they might have been able to make something happen. But Smashness, showing just how powerful this Human Torch is, able to zone, able to just burst on through people, take jewels in the sky versus Ultron. This was their game in control, creating so much room for Knuten down on the ground.
Yeah, Knuten being able to pick off Tuzi. That was the thing that just immediately bagged Zero Tenacity that point. Because if it comes down to a Final Judgment versus Final Judgment, Invis Bound is not going to be enough. It's one of the lower end healing ultimates in the game, 165 heals per second, in comparison to something like a Cloak and Dagger's Eternal Bond, 250 heals per second. Same thing with Fate of Both from the Luna. But because it's not a Punisher versus Punisher, it's one Punisher, no Punisher. And it's just immediately not even close. Final Judgment comes through. All Business try to stack every single resource that they have available to hold on for Tuzi to come back on through, but it's just not enough as Zero Tenacity are free to pocket Knuten to victory.
They had so much control, Zero Tenacity, and yet still All Business got them repeatedly. This really did come down to those last couple seconds. Slowpo, like you said, tried to mirror the same idea, but with a little more single target as opposed to some AoE zoning, leaving Tuzi, we already know, is absolutely insanely good at this game to have a lot of freedom of their own. But you mentioned Knudsen finding the targeting when needed, wrapping around from behind and making sure that they got rid of them early to take that final fight.
Yeah, Ducky won with really smart portals too. Instead of portaling onto point or portaling directly onto the enemy team, portals behind them so that he can use the threat of Eye of Agamotto to force everyone from the side of All Business to have to turn around and adjust. They know that the strategists can't actually peel for themselves because Eye of Agamotto with Maelstrom of Madness, now that it has no damage fall-off, is actually still going to be able to find the picks. So all of a sudden, those resources which should be going in to prioritizing keeping Tuzi alive so that when we go to that last fight on point, when it's the 6 versus 6, it's Final Judgment versus Final Judgment, they can't afford to place them on the Punisher. They have no choice. Their hand is fully forced to have to turn around and help their backline, and that's when the rest of Zero Tenacity get aggressive because we're actually following the Stranger's POV, and up in the pick feed we see Knudsen takes down Tuzi because there's absolutely no resources near him. It's really good timing. It's dive timing, to be entirely honest, in a brawl composition that works out perfectly.
And with a fantastic draft coming in from Zero Tenacity into some beautiful play, but All Business, they're still fighting for this matchup. Will they be able to bring it back and take us to a 1-1? Find out after this short break.
Well, be it Celsius or Fahrenheit, as both outside and here at the Marvel Rivals Ignite EMEA, things are definitely heating up. Zero Tenacity versus All Business. We've been building up this matchup. We've been saying this has the potential of going to a full series between these two teams. And after that scorching Krakoa, I'm pretty sure that unless something goes terribly, horribly wrong in the advanced pick and ban system, Tetcha, that's exactly where we're barreling towards.
We're going to keep seeing these teams evolve. We've already been seeing Zero Tenacity go with a little bit more of a targeted draft versus All Business, whereas All Business stayed a little bit more in terms of the usual pattern we might see from a draft. But as such, Zero Tenacity were able to get Smashnez back on that Human Torch, who is definitely representing the sun here in the UK today. An overwhelming, full concentrated power of the sun being dropped consistently. It's hard to deal with, and while they tried to mirror it with that Ultron, it just did not have the same effect.
Yeah, I mean, Rage of Ultron was definitely finding a lot of really good impact, especially because they would use it very late on in the fight when a lot of players from Zero Tenacity would be very split, and that's exactly how you want to utilize that ultimate. Into a stack of players, it's not going to be doing all that much because they're very quickly going to be able to sustain through it. But when you're a little bit later in the fight, you're down your major cooldown resources, your health bar is already somewhat depleted, you're all split away from each other, so there's no additional bodies of Vanguards being able to absorb the hits coming on through, and it was finding a lot of really good picks which All Business would then be able to use to lengthen out the duration between each fight, and then that builds as a domino impact into how much time Tuzi has to set up on the Punisher. But Zero Tenacity did such a good job of just disrupting every single one of those setups. Whether it was, you know, Ducky 1 going through with the teleports into the back, or whether it was just the Captain America full sending it every single time with Lugia showing up in places that All Business really didn't want to be finding him. We just got to see Zero Tenacity have such a good control of the entire map space.
We, of course, spoke to Polly from Berber Patapim yesterday after their win and asked them, like, why is that? Where do we see this Captain America over, for example, the Venom, where some other regions are picking and a couple of these other teams are picking up? And he just believes that that single target pressure is so good, combined with the fact that Freedom Charge is essentially a strategist ultimate in its own right. Every second, you and everyone who is in that path gets movement speed and that bonus health, which is a huge boon when you're trying to stay alive in these big team fights. So this is why you see Caps run on in. If they don't find a pickup, they'll just quickly run back and then dive back in. It's not just to get healing, it's to be almost the healer in their own right.
Yeah, and I mean, we even saw it from Zero Tenacity. Freedom Charge, Final Judgment, off we go. Those are the two things that we need, that they just went for such aggressive tempo shift plays. And all business, they were relying so much on just the space, the time to be able to set up, coordinate how they wanted to take each fight. And Zero Tenacity just came on through and every single time wrench in the plans. No, you don't get to fight plan. No, you don't get to alt track. We're fighting right now. You've got to deal with us when you're not prepared to do so. And they took full advantage, given the fact that when we look at, you know, some of the heroes that were on the board, the fact that all business started off with the Cloak and Dagger and the Loki, which is probably the strongest or one of the strongest backlines that you can have in a 2-2-2 format. And it was so detrimental, the Captain America, the Torch, the Punisher, that all business bent the knee and swapped to the Luna.
Yeah, to just try and keep that one Punisher on their side up in these fights. They just had to focus the healing in to keep them prepared. But when you have a speed boosted from the Captain America Punisher while they're also being pocketed and also the sun is falling on you, it's hard to deal with even for a Lunar Snow. Fate of Both Worlds is, we've called it so many times, one of the best, if not maybe outside of maybe Jeff, the best ultimate in the game in the right circumstances. But if you are just being blown up that hard, we also saw Invisible Woman getting almost countered, but played beautifully to avoid these big target blasts onto the Invisible Woman. This was just Zero Tenacity taking the tools they need, analyzing the weaknesses, and playing around them to perfection.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact as well that they took advantage of one of the weaknesses of having, like, the fact that you have the Luna, the damage boost off of the Luna is only in the ultimate, as opposed to the Cloak and Dagger, who has it far more frequently, it being tied to a cooldown of 12 seconds, which is maddeningly short in comparison to the damage that it can do. And they really started making that Fate of Both Worlds and Eye of Agamotto into Maelstrom of Madness combination hurt, to the point that, you know, all business tried to even go for the full copy of it. As we head over to, now this is surprising, Yggdrasil Path, because, I mean, the last time these two teams met, all business lost Burnin, took us to Yggdrasil Path, and then Zero Tenacity came out with an absolutely off-of-the-wall composition that bounced off of the wall, into the wall, off of the floor, with a Squirrel Girl. So maybe all business now feel more prepared in dealing with it?
We'll have to see. Zero Tenacity once again going to get their hands on that Human Torch, where we will see potentially Human Torch getting sniped out the side by a Squirrel Girl is open to see, as that Emma Frost will get protected nice and early for all business. Make sure that they do have a little bit of Vanguard priority. And there's that Luna counterban. While it did not win the match, it was still a little bit tough to deal with because Fate of Both Worlds is still really good.
Yeah, they're still low-key up for grabs, but it's more a case of you're worried about the Luna giving the Psylocke the tools to be able to take your entire team down. Tuzi with a Luna Pocket on that Psylocke is an absolute terror to deal with, and even though Zero Tenacity took out the Luna, they've learned from the mistakes of some of these other teams that had the hubris of thinking that Tuzi Psylocke was stopped, was depleted in terms of damage that it could do if the Luna was the only thing to go. So both the Luna and the Psylocke are out.
And with, of course, Welsh Mania being an incredible Captain America to help set up for them, it is going to be a solid idea to take away that Psylocke when you need. We will, however, be seeing that mirror on the Human Torch, so we still have solid options for Tuzi as well. There's the Invisible Woman banned out, removing that Fantastiforce, and of course that pocket support healing from all business.
Do Zero Tenacity save it so that they get one-sided? Or do they save the Luna? Okay, they save the Luna, which is good for them because all business now have a couple of directions that they can go. They can ban the Strange, or they can ban the Invis Women, and they decide to ban the Strange. So no teleport recontests coming on through. No Eye of Agamotto amped on up by a Fate of Both Worlds. This is actually, I think, a very good reaction coming on out from all business, as we did actually see them flirt with the concept of the Strange ban in the last map, which I think them not going through with is a decision that they potentially regret.
I would agree. We did see them struggle a little bit here, and as such, they're having to adjust their composition. They once again have no of the more standard shields. They're looking at the Groot, as it's one of the few characters left who can at least set up some kind of interceding barrier between you and your opponents in this case. However, it is one that also blocks your allies from being able to see stuff as well. The Hulk, however, is going to be a solid backup option. Indestructible Guard is going to give your team a lot of protection. It opens up the option for Wolverines, as we've seen from Insomnia, or even for the Namor to give that Gamma Monstro a little bit of overwhelming damage to try and melt through frontliners and auto-target flyers.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Ducky is entirely upset about being forced onto the Groot, because Groot is actually what he was known for all the way back in Season 0 and Season 1. He was a globally ranked Groot player back when Groot was the strongest Vanguard in the game. So there's definitely going to be a lot of very fun set plays that Zero Tenacity have to be able to set that one up, as Zero Tenacity, having secured the Luna for the advanced pick and ban, set Knuten on the Hawkeye. Every 20 seconds, set your watches. Ice Arrow is going to be coming blasting on through, and that's going to hit directly into the backline through shields and through cover. So all business are going to have to play around that and make sure that their backline is very well hidden.
We're on the patch pre that getting adjusted due to the fact that these teams have been playing on this for a while, to make sure that everything is stable and nothing too drastic changes in the middle of a week. Toot playing far forward. This corner as well, you'll see a lot of the first step defenses here, and using that damage boost from the Storm to try and help keep Tuzi boosted up instead of the Mantis we've been seeing. Ducky will get taken out by Toot, but Smashnes is keeping some solid control on this Namor, as they're pushing up a character who we see a lot of people play in defensive posture, has fantastic flanking potential.
Knuten is actually already able to take down Closer, and then we get another Ice Arrow onto the disengage, and they take down Tuzi. They're all frozen. Fish in a barrel is the phrase that comes to mind, as Welshmania has no choice but to swap over to the Strange just to be able to rejoin the teams. Nos with the God of Mischief is going to be able to copy the Cloak and Dagger, gets the ultimate, and finally Slowpoke will put a shutdown to the shenanigans of the Hawkeye. But the damage has been done. All business have lost a lot of space, and now they're going to have to delay these last picks for as long as they possibly can.
Slowpoke using that center Loki statue for a little bit of cover. Omega Hurricane on the reinforcement. That is personal, directly onto Hawkeye. Enough of that. We're so sick of it. Taking them down, straggling Prison for the turnaround, though, realizing that Storm's a little bit split into the Horn of Proteus. And that is the kind of wombo we love to see. Cleaning up here, just leaving that diamond form Emma. It takes a little bit longer to clean out, and Zero Tenacity smash on through this first point.
Yeah, they say the grass is greener on the other side, even with the Loki regen domain coming on through to save everybody from the one-shot potential of the Horn of Proteus' landing. Unfortunately, it gets put on cooldown. So Zero Tenacity still have the numbers and the Groot Walls to stop all businesses disengage. And Knuten, with the Hunter's Sight, has that ultimate up and running. If all business try and put pressure around this corner, they're going to have to give up the space. Another Ice Arrow fully CCs out all businesses backline. And it's up to Tuzi on the Punisher to try and shut this down immediately. Momentum needs to be depleted right here, right now. And Final Judgment with Eternal Bond's going to start doing that, but not going to finish. As Knuten, with the Hunter's Sight, takes the Punisher down, and off of a Strangling Prison attempted to come through, is able to peel for his backline too.
They are tracking down beautifully. The Eternal Bond bought a little bit of time, but they are finding everyone. The second they split off, the damage output is so much burst that it takes a couple seconds for that healing tick to come on in. And all business, they realize that they need something with just a little more oomph. They're going to move off of the Punisher here, and they're bringing out the Ultron to try and just single target down that Hawkeye.
Yeah, I thought about the Storm for a second, but double flyer into both full Cam and Namor and Hawkeye is not what you want, as walking through those small hallways into a Strangling Prison is absolutely not the position that you desire to be in if you're all business, especially if you have flyers who need space. And that is not where you're going to be able to find it. They can potentially slow things down. They're going to teleport back to the C spawn rather than find themselves getting staggered off into the B. But that is going to give Zero Tenacity all of the time in the world to be able to set up the crossfire. Keep your eye on Smashnes, because he's already fully behind them.
Let's look at the ultimate economy here. We have Slowpoke currently on 86%. Toot is fully charged up. Everyone else below 50. Zero Tenacity. They have Fate of both worlds. Horde of Proteus and the Invisible Boundary. They are just approaching that Hunter's site here. They have so many defensive tools that it's going to be very hard for All Business to pull the trigger. They'll burn the range of Ultron to try and at least clear out some of this flanking from the Namor and those Monstros.
Triangling Prison was not combined with the Horn of Proteus, so All Business don't find the picks coming up against them until now. Hunter's sight in the middle of an Invis boundary. If you try and run, you get slowed. If you're trying flying, you get exiled. Lugia is able to keep Slowpoke grounded, and they finish off the Ultron. All Business are potentially going to be finding themselves stuck in their respawn rooms right now, as Knuten on this Hawkeye is entirely untouchable. All Business have the ultimates. They've got to start with an Eternal Bond, but if you're not too careful, the Hawkeye can one-shot it with the primary alone. And there it goes. Close's ultimate gets cancelled early.
Silent Seduction to try and pull Knuten off the position, but it cannot reach. Trying to get onto that torch to at least get something. Struggling Prison, and Tucky just is doing so much work on this Groot. Pushing on in, trying to deal with the EMEA. They've got everything up here. Knuten was finally taken down. Horde of Proteus to finish off Nost. And with that being taken down, All Business are very staggered, having to burn the Flaming Media for that bonus help to try and make their way in, but it's one at a time. Captain America Welsh Mania for every extra second counts.
Zero Tenacity is just dealing with staggers right now. All Business can't break out of the respawn doors. 2 minutes, almost 20 seconds. Zero Tenacity, full push Yggdrasil path. All Business took us to this map. They thought that they knew what Zero Tenacity would pull out. They were confident that they would be able to counterplay it. But I don't think anyone is expecting the depth of tricks that Zero Tenacity have at their disposal, because that was an absolute crazy play. Knuten, I think, only went down to the Storm fully targeted spawn camp Omega Hurricane.
They were taken down in the early set by that, and then once on that final push by like 3 people burning resources just to take them down. It is so targeted. If you look at the actual final hits, only 3 times. Smashness hasn't gone down once. Neither has Winnie. They have been playing so far back because Knuten is just drawing aggro.
I mean, in comparison to Nost and Closer, I feel for them. I really do. You're a strategist. You have so many players who try and just stack their bodies in front of you. Ice Arrow cares not a whit for that. The further away you are, the more damage that you take. It goes through shields. It goes through cover. It turns Marvel Rivals into an absolute horror game for a player in a backline, where every 20 seconds you are literally trying to keep a track of that Hawkeye's location. So is it there? Has it come out yet? Can I peek a corner?
They have decided to swap back over to the Punisher. Try and melt through these group walls, play front to back. But the longer they take on this, of course, means that Knuten is just picking away from the back line, about as far back as you can go, sending in the shots. Tuzi is finding the flankers and is at least putting a little bit of counter pressure onto them. But there's no setup here to deal with Knuten. What a lockdown into the pickup, and that's just what we've been seeing all game.
Yeah, that's the thing about Hawkeye. Man can shoot, man can jump. And he absolutely can hit his shots if he's Knuten. Every single time he lands one of these ice arrows, he's going to be able to confirm it into one pick coming on through. And All Business are going to have to plan around it. Slowpoke gets ice arrowed out of spawn and gets taken down immediately.
Toon is trying to create an opening here, but the fate of both worlds will come out from Zero Tenacity to hold the line, with Slowpoke already down, making their way back in, but they're still outnumbered. Znos taken down by Smashnez, who is again consistently barely being touched, is just not being targeted because there's so much aggro being drawn. Another push in trying to lock down the retreating members of All Business. Zero Tenacity are locked down on this high ground.
All Business just can't get out around the first corner right now. Knuten's getting every single resource, and he gets every single pick he needs for his team. Smalls goes down. How do you to manage to break this. Hawkeye, he's got the Guardian Shield. He's got a naval playing full bouncer and bodyguard on the main road. All business trying to wrap around to the side, but that just means that they get set up into another ice arrow. Final judgment comes through, melts down the Hulk form. It gets paired up with psionic seduction so that Zero Tenacity can't use an ultimate to counterplay it. But Knuten doesn't need an ultimate, he just needs the space. He comes on through with the Hunter side trying to shut down the Eternal Bond yet again. It's up to Welsh Mania to prop his team up with the Eye of Agamotto.
Ducky, quick reminder that this is Marvel Rivals, not that other game, as they just built for a ambush there. Strangling Prism for the setup, but all business have finally been able to break the line. Welsh Mania is setting up portals immediately to block off reinforcements to try and guarantee this point A, and they will be able to do so. It's going to be Zero Tenacity setting up for a further back defense instead of trying to contest it, which does waste Welsh Mania's portal.
And Zero Tenacity get a better angle now too, because you're coming into a fight with one long open line of sight into another long open line of sight around the corner. You are terrified of Knuten's Hawkeye right now, and Zero Tenacity know this. They're keeping all business just stuffed into this one space with the crossfire. The Nemo spam continuously so that Knuten gets all of the space. Regen domain has already been forced, which is a clear go sign for a Horn of Proteus to look for the one shot, as it's up to Tuzi to clear the Hawkeye with the torch spam.
Pushing on forward, you saw the Gamma Burst coming in. Supernova from Tuzi to try and create some kind of opening to try and weaken these members as they are pushing on into a fate of both worlds, though. The healing output is good, but they will find it. Oasis is taken down. Welsh Mania is picked up on the other side, and Smashness finishes off Tuzi. They've got the flank set up so beautifully every time, and the distraction continues to work. We have another trap set up by Ducky as they take an aerial position, making some stairs.
This is Strangling Prison. They're gonna wait for everyone to walk out of main. They're gonna Strangling Prison into Horn of Proteus. Everyone's gonna be stuck in the center. They're all gonna take the
my God.
There it goes! 1, 2, 3, say goodbye! As Closer tries to save the fight with an Eternal Bond.
Can't look up for the trees as they continue to pile on the pressure. They got 3, continuing to try and get anyone else on the retreat to prevent them stepping up with 2 minutes to go. Zero Tenacity, they still have a visible boundary. They still have Hunter's sight. They are in control. All business, they need to make something happen with this final judgment, or they're not going to get much further than maybe a few more meters. Smashness retreating up to the high ground, and immediately we see Lugia moving back to make sure they're safe. This team has so much synergy.
Knuten just got closer, and then immediately afterwards got Tuzi. Regeneration domain is invested for a business to try and hold the space, but Zero Tenacity, they sense the blood in the water. They're going to continue to push to make sure that all business are deprived of any space that they can use to regroup around those corners in those small rooms to set up for a psionic seduction into the final judgment. Zanost has God of Mischief, but it's not the win condition that it normally is, because Knuten is about 5'6" in terms of shutting down both the actual Eternal Bond and the copied format as a huge ice arrow comes through, and before all business can even get the ship off the docks, Slowpoke gets taken down. Final judgment denied.
Knuten going for the entire strategy of you can't ult if you're stuck in your spawn for the entire game. Just finding these pickups over and over and over. Getting punished right now by that human torch, but the strategists are completely uncontested due to the amount of pressure that's being put onto the backline. Here comes that final judgment for the commit to try and make something happen with that Eternal Bond for the setup. And Knuten is being run down this time, gets the knockback, being pulled in, but still finds Tuzi. They're literally being targeted by 3 people, and they still snipe the backline.
They get the Horn of Proteus. They've still got the fate of both worlds. All business have an Eye of Agamotto and a Supernova to work with, but Zero Tenacity have a Knuten and a Strangling Prison, and Lugia with the Monster Hulk, as well as making sure that the payload doesn't move a single inch. We're down to one final fight, and all business are down to having to bypass this same dreaded angle, the gauntlet that Knuten is laying down upon them. Lugia is actually getting closer. He's going to go all the way to that spawn to try and cancel the teleport coming through. He doesn't manage to find it. The body block is good. Someone else gets exiled, and Welsh Mania manages to find the portal, but they don't get through in time.
1, 2, 3.
What an incredible round from Zero Tenacity. Literally everything optimized. They didn't get, like you said, that Gamma lockdown, but they were still able to control that map from start to finish. All Business got one fight where they were able to get something happening, but we saw ambushes from above with Groot. We saw snipes from long range. This is why we have been seeing the Hawkeye in some of the other regions. One of the first times we're starting to see it rise up in EMEA, and Knudsen showing that it should be feared, and we might just be going right back to Lunar Bands.
Yeah, 28-5. If you asked me, you know, what took down the dinosaurs, I would say Knudsen, a time machine, and an ice arrow. That's what would change history, because this just changed EMEA meta permanently. Hawkeye has shown how strong this team up actually can be, and Knudsen was terrifying. We see now why Slowpo invested the Omega Hurricane, and you know what? Well-placed investment. That's the trade you make every single day of the week, because every other day, well, all business were closed for business when Knudsen was in control.
Trying to take the most of that moment to just try and snipe the backline so they could turn around and join their team on the flank. But while that was happening, Strangling Prison into Horde of Proteus, exactly what we see. The distraction. Knudsen, yeah, they were carrying, but Smashnez and Ducky were still absolutely dominating these fights. Every single time they focused Knudsen, it's exactly what we saw from the previous game, but the opposite way round. Smashnez is in the sky, distracting from the Punisher on the ground. It's just reversed this time with Knudsen being the bait.
Look at all of that. Like, these replays, it's here when you head into B, right? There it is. Slowpoke goes down. Closer goes down. This was insane. God. If a tree falls in a forest with a Horn of Proteus following it, 3 people definitely hear it and feel it because they all got sent back to that respawn point, as all business were just never able to break the angle. They had to put so much into sending an entire hit squad after the Hawkeye. But even before they got to see the Hawkeye, they had to make sure that they got through the check of both the Namor and the Hulk, who were able to utilize mobility on the Hulk and Blessing of the Deep from the Namor, which is just an immediate 3 seconds where that Namor is not going to go down but can still get healed up by the rest of his team. So even though you were able to brute force your way over to the Hawkeye, you had nothing to actually take him down permanently, and unfortunately your backline got traded in the meantime.
You mentioned the tree and the horn falling, you mentioned it being heard, but they sure weren't telling anyone because they weren't even in the map for a moment, sent back to the spawn. But we'll be telling everyone about this, and we'll be seeing how all business can attempt to recover, or will Zero Tenacity be able to close this series out. We'll be right back after this short break. Zero Tenacity, but what felt like a million KOs. They have so many options. We just saw all business attempt to ban out Ducky, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Oh, we let the globally ranked Groot player play Groot. I love as well the fact that Zero Tenacity just immediately full lent into it. They were like, oh, we get Groot? Okay, let's go Namor. We got Namor, we got Luna, we got Hawkeye, we got Groot. They get Strangling Prison combined with Horn of Proteus. They've got a Hulk as well in the mix to make sure that you just have the permanent mobility to deny anyone from all business walking, to deny the space that the Hawkeye is looking for. And the second that you deny that space, the Hawkeye just, it's a shooting gallery. But let's be honest, every single time we went to Knudsen's POV, he's just got 3 people in front of him. There's hardly any cover. If they find themselves going just around corners to avoid looking into the Hawkeye, that just allows the 20-second ice arrow cooldown to come back.
They had so much domination, and we talk about the damage output that they were putting, just how much they were able to snipe people, like you said, but the defenses deserve highlighting with those strategists positioning perfectly. Like you mentioned, guard in the actual game, Guardian Barrier on the Hawkeye, keeping them safe. The Hulk leaping back and forth between the fights, not just diving in, not just single-mindedly rushing in like a mindless beast, just leaping back for those indestructible guards onto the Namor, onto that Hawkeye, who were very split from each other the whole time to make sure that if one got dove, the other could help.
Zero Tenacity gonna be saving the torch. It's really up to all business in terms of how they want to react to this. As Zero Tenacity, I think of all of the teams in EMEA, they're probably one of the best at just being absolutely uncounterable when it comes to the advanced pick and bans, which is the amount of depth of hero pools that they have, not just of hero pools that they have individually, but compositions that they can play together as a team. As Luna is going to get banned out on the side of Zero Tenacity. All business have not yet banned the Luna. There it's going to go,
come on, you gotta, surely.
As Zero Tenacity target out Tuesday.
We're back to the standard. Luna was allowed out of the ban jail for a couple days and has immediately gone back in at the hands of Zero Tenacity to at least try and put some of the brakes on that Hawkeye. But we still have so many options. We've shown that Zero Tenacity, they still got the Torch and Punisher combo. Captain America going to be picked up by all business as their protect for at least a little bit of backline pressure from Welsh Mania and that extra bonus health from the ultimate.
Yeah, I would imagine seeing the Captain America Zero Tenacity are going to start saving the Emma Frost on their last, as they have not been banned out of it. And you know that dive is going to be coming on from the side of all business if Watchmania is able to get into the back line. What better way to potentially grab him with a cup and crush? But it looks like they might actually prioritize the invis, which can still be used both to peel the Captain America with the force physics to knock him back, but also for that Guardian shield and the synergy so that the torch has a little bit more sustainability up in the sky, as all business are going to be taking out a strategist that we're very accustomed to seeing this week pop up in that ban slot. Cloak and Dagger is gone.
It's been doing so much work, removing that extra burst. And Zero Tenacity, they're looking like they're going to run at least part of this back, even though they have all of the tools for their usual setup with the Punisher and the Human Torch. All business having their torch banned out. Zero Tenacity protect it, but they were actually thinking about for a moment going for that Namor Hulk, but it looks like they are reverting to this, the exact draft they used against all business in the first time they met, with that Adam Warlock composition with the Mantis and whatever strategist they have also just hanging out, in this case the Invisible Woman, to make sure that that torch gets all the value.
Yeah, there was some debate there going on through as they try to figure out how they wanted to deal with the part of the dive comp that all business are going to send into their backline whenever these fights start breaking on out. Gamma Squid with the Hulk Namor is actually very, very strong against the Captain America, as is the Triple Res, the Guardian's composition with the Atom, because you have Soul Bond, which is on a cooldown, but still is essentially an entire defensive ultimate. Plus, you have a duelist in the form of a strategist who's going to be able to put more pressure on the Captain America before they can fully dive on through. And Zero Tenacity are going to be going for that play. Triple strategist, Mantis for the damage boost over to Smashness, which means that that torch should be able to keep up the pressure onto Tuesday, as all business on the defense do at least have the luxury of the high ground currently to establish that Punisher and really fortify that position before Zero Tenacity try to lay siege to the site.
They've once again brought out the Ultron, looking for single targets to try and just pick off people on that backline. They're getting some good damage onto Oasis, but with triple strategists here, the healing output is good. Welsh Mania is on the flank, like we called, trying to cause distractions, trying to cause delays, flaming media quite aggressively here, and we're seeing Zero Tenacity able to split all business's attention quite effectively. This doorway getting sieged with the flames, with the damage boost. Smashness has control of this. That's the lockdown onto the cap, chasing them all the way off the point. That's going to be point number one, almost certainly picked up by Zero Tenacity. We're just seeing people trickle in one at a time from all business.
We're also seeing Knuten right in the front lines. He's not playing to counter the Captain America. He's playing to be a duelist in his own right. Both the Mantis and the Invis, as well as Smashness, like you said, with those dives, just coming on through the second that Welsh Mania shows on up. And then the fact as well that Adam's heal manages to bounce from player to player means that Zero Tenacity can keep themselves moving, can continue pressuring out both of all businesses' frontline core without leaving themselves vulnerable, susceptible to that dive in the backside without those resources in play. It's going to be a very aggressive Eternal Bond coming on out, but it's going to be mirrored actually by the Soul Bond from Zero Tenacity as they try to disengage it, but it's not to be. Ducky One has fallen, and now all business have bought themselves a little bit of space, but not when Knuten is hitting shots like that.
Well, Bonds of the Spy convention, but Canoonan is putting a lockdown to it, chasing them in, looking for pickups. Welshmania is still in the backline. We had to watch some fun interactive gameplay from Winnie. You're a little bit stuck there, Welshmania, getting chased down there, getting away. Cap is just so fast and hard to take down.
Yeah, but I mean, that was sedation into Coffin Crush coming on through. Zero Tenacity very much prepared as the Eye of Agamotto comes on through from Olivia. The Strange was not banned out this time around, and that Eye of Agamotto combined with the focus fire quite literally of the Supernova Heat will take all business back to the drawing board as they invested in that one, Tetcha. That was their Eternal Bond final judgment play.
All they have left right now is that Rage of Ultron and the Freedom charge for that extra protection. And Zero Tenacity looking to not give them the chance to use it. Going in for the Psionic Seduction, getting the first pull in, getting the second, and they're trying to turn onto Welshmania once again. Carbon Crush. They do dash away using that Liberty Rush to make sure that they don't get picked up with that Crystal Kick into the lockdown so that they can get targeted. And this is allowing another ultimate from Oasis. And Zero Tenacity had a significant ultimate lead here, and that would allow them to push on in. Cloak getting out of there with that Dark Pulse teleport to make sure that they can retreat. And well, Welshmania is just buying every second they can for the team to give them time to remake their way in.
Yeah, Welshmania is able to buy enough seconds too for the God of Mischief into Eternal Bond, and Ducky Once is going to be able to kick him right out of it. All business do have the closer respawns. T's going to be coming back on through with that Psionic Seduction, and so too is Welshmania. He can do it all day as long as his respawn is close, but unfortunately Toot gets taken down before the Psionic Seduction can find value, and Zero Tenacity will be able to scoop up in lightning speed. They've got 4 minutes on the time bank. They haven't had to use Karmic Revival once.
They just keep moving forward. Canoonan gets the double. Doesn't matter what they're playing. They move over from a Hawkeye, which is a projectile character, to a hit scan, and they're still just like, well, that's easier. And just finding hits over and over again. They just are locked on with these headshots. They have 6k damage. That's more than Slowpo.
They're about to have 6 ultimates in this fight too. He's on the off angle as well. If they try and pressure him out, the frontline coach is going to walk on the outnumbered fight, and it's going to be Supernova to split the team for Eternal Bond to not find the virus. All business try and pour out of the choke into the open space. Hello will be able to take one. Tuzi having swapped over to the hit scan to try and keep a check on Canoonan, but Eye of Agamotto is going to be able to stop all business from finding that tidal win of a fight stop that they were looking for. Tuzi gets taken down. We've got the actual Loki now going for the God of Mischief into another Eternal Bond, but you can see Canoonan silhouette is setting up for a Karmic Revival. Zero Tenacity are more than happy to drop players because they're about to get them right back up.
They make their way in. They committed to that push. They're going to try and push on in for more pickups. Slowpo will be the first to full smash. There's finally went down after hiding around the corner for quite a while in that fight. Looking at the ultimate, they still have the invisible boundary. Here comes the Goddess of Death. They got to focus that down. Lugia locked in here, still able to tank through a lot of that damage. Kraken Impact might be the only saving grace. Slowpo is going to have to pull off the engage of their life here to try and turn this round, because that card keeps moving forward. Moxie, they're running out of time. They've got to wait for any tool. Here comes the Eternal Bond for at least one turnaround, but already we're losing Newton, but they have to bring themselves back, and the Soul Rejuvenation from Oasis is keeping them top. Newton returns, Bionic Hook, and Slowpo falls. No more resets. Eye of Agamotto says your time is up, and Zero Tenacity are looking for the triple cap.
They should be able to get it. They just need to get the cap out of the way. Welshmania is going to fall, and Zero Tenacity triple cap with 2 above on the board, and this composition is even harder to be able to attack into because they have all of the usages of a defensive ultimate right from the rip. All business are going to have to take this attack in stages. They need to bleed the resources out from Zero Tenacity. The Soul Bond, the Cocoon Revives coming on through from Canoonan and Oasis. At the least, they're not running the Star-Lord, so there's not 3 of them. But Smashness on this torch has been an absolute monster that all business just have not been able to extinguish.
Zero Tenacity hovering the Thorn here on the defense. They're also hovering the Hela for just a moment. I don't know how much of that's going to make it out of spawn. They were potentially looking at even more revives, but they are actually still on this Thorn. They might actually try this. We've only really seen this from the very few teams in actual Ignite. We saw it a little bit in the qualifiers from teams like not OTPs, where Cringe Alarm tried to bring it in as they were just target banned on their penny every time.
Yeah, Twisted Minds also played Kaya on the 4 a couple of times, notably on Symbiotic Surface, sometimes over here on Hall of Dejalia. Lugia, though, is essentially going to be able to just go and brawl. Is what this 4 is going to be able to do. Go and brawl, because they've read that all business are going to be trying to put Tuzi over to this Hela on this hit scan to be able to keep a track of either Smashnez or Knuten if he's on the Adam Warlock, and that Hela is going to potentially get pressured off of the angle by the 4 coming on through, because they don't have the resources to care for her, as Lugia is going to show the might of Mjolnir alongside that Pyro Prison and all business. Already we can see the lack of space that this team has. That's already regeneration domain forced from their hands before we even start fighting.
We're of course seeing the new Thor right now, which leans a little bit more heavy on that Awakening Rune, but this is before the Thor getting the ability to cancel that Awakening Rune, which allows them to try and get out with a Storm Surge. So they're forced to back away a little bit more standardly. Here is the Eternal Bonds already coming out early as all business are pushing it extremely aggressively. They've got a Rocket Revive, which brings back Winnie, but they do not have this Carbon Revival, and it would not be charged at this point anyway. All business are taking this new composition from Zero Tenacity, and they are trying to outplay it. And the Final Judgment comes back in for the last turnaround. Regeneration domain for at least a little extra protection, for a little extra time. The Sephirim barrier from Doctor Strange is buying every extra second as the portal comes out from Zero Tenacity. They keep the reinforcement going, dragging out this fight.
Huge pick as well comes through from Tuzi. He commits onto the rocket before the BRB station can bring back Knuten on that Punisher. All business had a game plan when they sent everyone up on that left side. They all stacked together, which meant that closest primary, every single Light Force dagger is getting the AoE, the 8-meter heal onto every single person stacked up. Eternal Bond fills incredibly quickly. As Zero Tenacity, there. We get to see it. Adam Warlock comes back into the mix. Oasis over towards the Mantas. They're going for the rescon position so that Tuzi can get checked out by a strategist.
They might not be being rash, but they're certainly adjusting to try and smash as they push back in with that Supernova to pull in. That is a wonderful block of the Goddess of Death directly into the Supernova Fire Tornadoes. We'll see a Flaming Meteor smash this, so they get the bonus help to get out of danger. Aya Magamoto comes on in. Knuten went down, brought back with their own cocoon. Counter Aya Magamoto from Lugia, setting them up beautifully. Quadruple, it's a team wipe as they chase down Welsh Mania to complete the set.
Yeah, Closer goes down before they get the opportunity to use that Eternal Bond. Really good focus fire from Zero Tenacity. At least for Closer, though, they will have the CC immunity to make sure that they dodge away from the Psionic Seduction, which Ducky 1 is setting up incredibly aggressively. This Pyro Prison is being used to just slowly chip down all business and also stall out their approach, giving Ducky 1 a much better position because they've been so worried about the Pyro Prison. No one's cleared the ammo. I think Ducky 1 is still behind them, and indeed, there it is! All of a sudden, we've got a flanking Psionic Seduction, and all business unable to turn the shield in time to save the Hela.
Going into administration, getting locked down, but they're still going to try and contest this. Losing Welsh Mania, but everyone else is contesting this. They got Knuten, they got Lugia. Znost is taken down by Smashnez, who is currently uncontested in the sky because of all the distraction that the ground forces are doing. But all business, they have to make their way back to Whippy, who's holding the cart. While invisible, they're still there. Finally getting caught, locked down with that extra soul siphon to keep them out of position. And we will see Zero Tenacity forced to reset with a slightly staggered invisible woman.
We've got 2 fights now because Winnie was able to stall out the payload. Well, business are going to have to take 2 fights, and Zero Tenacity do have the Karmic Revival. They're already starting to make a play for possession of this corner so that they can get Smashnez into a position to cut off the disengagement if all business try to retreat When a tactical ultimate comes on through from the side of the defense, Knuten utilizing the terrain of the map to be able to block the bionic hook attempt to come on through. And there's Smashnez. He's already been able to send them directly running to the team, but that sends them right into two. With the Eye of Agamotto, Maelstrom will be able to find the picks that it's looking for. However, Knuten has the cocoon to self-revive, and with Ducky taking closer out of the fight and Kraken Impact dealt with at the same time, Zero Tenacity are still holding strong.
A lovely setup by All Business there. 2-2 trying to make their way in, but it's just the stickiness of this roster. So hard it is to make any of these eliminations stay for longer than a few seconds with these double cocoons, with Strange being so hard to take down their own, Invisible Woman being able to double jump away, and of course Ducky having that diamond form. It's so hard to finish anyone off. I have Agamotto to the high ground. The barriers do block a little bit. Regeneration Domain will allow All Business to look for the turnaround as the Goddess of Death coming on out and sieging in.
Yeah, but that was Tuesday using Goddess of Death to dodge the Eye of Agamotto. Zero Tenacity more than happy to trade an invisible boundary for it, because now they can take the fight out in the open. Out comes Psionic Seduction. So many players from All Business swept into the mix, and it just sets it up. Ducky 1 puts them into a position. Knuten brings them all tumbling down. And speaking about tumbling down, All Business are tumbling like a house of cards, entirely knocked apart by Zero Tenacity's composition.
1 minute to go. They're seriously running low on time. They do, of course, have Portal, which they will save, hoping that 2-2, ironically hoping that they are the first to fall. Newton just sniped Tuzi again from across the map. There's the counter pickup, and this time there is no cocoon. If All Business are going to go, they have to go now and just hope that Tuzi can make their way in with that Astral Flock for the reinforcements. But that first step means they need to make sure that Smashnez isn't just acting freely. Here comes the clone from Xenos to set up with the Eternal Bond. All Business are committing.
Yeah, but Zero Tenacity on. They're disengaging the force physics from Winnie. Manages to push the Eye of Agamotto back, and in the meantime, Lugia is going to get found out. Has no choice but to go onto the payload, but that's exactly what Zero Tenacity were wanting. Supernova cuts off the disengagement. Eternal Bond has come on through from the side of All Business as they try and heal through everything that Zero Tenacity have in the back pocket. But unfortunately, well, those pockets are a little bit deeper. Knuten comes on through with the Karmic Revival. Every tool at All Business's disposal has long since been exhausted, and the res composition is still going strong. Eye of Agamotto, Maelstrom of Madness takes down 2. It's an overtime fight, and 2 can't set a portal up for the team to recontest. We thought it would go 5 maps. It looks like it's going 3 total as Zero Tenacity win out all of Dejalia and win out the rematch against All Business once more.
What a setup by Zero Tenacity. They are making their way back towards that grand final. As we will see, we're not losing All Business. They will have time to go away and prepare for the playoffs as their seeding is now locked. And Smashnez once again showing just how good this team is, creating distractions and then allowing Smashnez to just move so freely. We're going to have a look at the damage output, because that torch was just completely free to move the majority of that game, and yet 37,000 seems about right. A solid 16k, aka an entire Slowpoke more than Tuzi. Both of them put together did not out-damage Smashnez.
45 eliminations. Almost outmatched by Lugia on the Strange, by the way, with 43. 18,777 picked up for the Strange. Ducky 1 on that Emma, having a little bit more damage burst output with the Diamond form, managing to outpace as well. But I mean, Zero Tenacity, it really does just feel like the compositions that they can play, the depths of which are endless. Like, they had so many set plays that All Business would be like, okay, it's safe to walk forward. No, it's not. There's a torch in our flank. Wait, okay, we're all regrouped. Let's move it quickly for main, guys. Never mind, we're getting scooped up by Psionic Seduction into Adam just peeking all of us, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, it really looked like they had such a good read on the way that Zero Tenacity wanted to play with the Brawl composition as they walked forward for that first attack of A, right, where they get the Eternal Bond, Close is able to board it in record speed. They all just use it to get onto the point. Tuzi on the Hella gets to move up to the space, challenge out Knuten, takes down the rocket, and then we get to B. And it's just Zero Tenacity. It's so one-sided, every single one of these fights.
And we would be completely remiss to not talk about, you mentioned them getting set up on or being scooped by Cyana Seduction. It was also, okay, someone got taken out, let's regroup. Oh, we're still not grouped up because Knuten is a sniper on this Adam Warlock, pinging people from across the map, finding the pickups before they can even move out as a group, keeping control and making it so that this Emma can move around a lot more freely because there's less people to spot them.
Yeah, man was an absolute menace. I need to see a Sparker versus Knuten Adam Warlock off. That duel at sundown. Ooh, I'm smiling already thinking about it. But no, Zero Tenacity, it feels like they came into this match knowing that a lot of what they wanted to do on some of the other maps had been given, right? That All Business would likely have gone into their scrims and said to teams, hey, can you run this composition? Because we're probably going to be going up against this team. Play these heroes like X, Y, and Z so that we can practice against it, because obviously you're not going to scrim the team that you're going to be taking on in the tournament, right? So Zero Tenacity were like, well, what if we just take you to different maps, but we do things differently? Because they prepared, like you just saw Puff coming out with the Storm. They prepared for the Squirrel Girl. 100% they prepared for the Squirrel Girl, going for something that is not going to be on the ground, so the Squirrel Girl's going to have more problems. But no. Zero Tenacity just continue showing comp after comp after comp.
They really do. We can ask them about some of those comps as we have our interview with Oasis coming in here. For starters, congratulations, yet another win with yet another comp.
Yeah. Finally we won and didn't lose like last time.
So how long have you guys been sitting on the Lunar Hawkeye? How long's that been in the kitchen for?
I mean, we just do our thing, honestly. Like, our coach says what we should go, and we went it, and it works out perfectly, I think. Mostly because Knuten is just the best Hawkeye in the game.
Yeah, he's Clint Barton. Like, there's no other way of saying it. That man is 100% the real life Hawkeye.
We did, however, see something a little bit different, though. You tried something in the start of round 2 in that third map that didn't maybe go as you all expected. Would you like to talk us through what the plan was then?
Yeah, I don't know. We just have a really good Thor player, and like Lugia goes, he's like the best Thor I know. Though, I mean, honestly, I don't know what we were thinking. It didn't work out at all. It was kind of shit, but... You know, our coach told us to go it, and in the end, like if he tells me that I should jump off a bridge, I'm jumping off. Like he's my goat. I listen to him.
So why do you think Triple Res, or do you think Triple Res is still just as strong as it was in the previous match, or do you feel it's actually getting out-tempered by some other compositions?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because like I feel like it's the opposite. So I feel like Triple Comp is probably the best composition in the game, but it's like, if you get truly perfect with it, it should be the best. Like, I just think, I don't know what to say. I just think there's one weakness, which I don't think I can say. I don't think my team would like if I said that weakness.
Don't reveal team weaknesses. Yeah. We do not want the coach coming after us.
No. But yeah, I do think it's a really strong comp.
So you've mentioned your coach a couple times now. Who is that, and how long have they been with the team, and how have they impacted how you guys draft and play?
Yeah, he actually does a lot, like, to be honest. He's been with us for around 3 months. He was with us even before I even joined this team. So, like, usually he's the one that keeps us in check when everything gets chaotic. Like, when we lost yesterday, we were kind of going crazy, like, should we go Hulk Namor, or what should we ban? Should we ban the same shit? But he's the one that reminded us that the meta does change. Like, everything does change throughout the tournament. There will be new compositions that come out, because you do want to counter the Punisher comp. Because the Punisher's comp is just, I mean, it's hell to go against, honestly. It's kind of OP.
So we got to see you on the Mantis, and I know that Mantis is one of your strongest, if not your strongest heroes. Getting to see as well so many of those sleeps coming out onto the Captain Americas. Do you have any advice that you want to give to Mantis players on how to be able to play that hero into dive situations?
Yeah, you need to damage boost more, I think, and kind of play your ults. I mean, it's really weird, honestly. Like, you just have to be careful of the Emma. Don't get grabbed. That's kind of the big thing. I got grabbed a lot, especially within scrims. I would ult and I would just walk straight ahead, like I did in season 0, and I would get grabbed in one shot. And my team, they sit there quietly, but I know they're judging me, for example. So that's kind of the big thing. Don't get grabbed.
All right, and the final question is, you're moving on once again to those finals of this group. Do you have any message for your opponents, for your team, and for the audience who are watching you?
I don't know. I really just want to win. Like, Tanuki was talking a lot of shit in DMs. Like, he think we had a player with like 15 FPS. His PC broke down and everything. Like, everything was just going to shit. And I feel like we were judged a little bit too much on our performance yesterday. But I still think we have a good shot.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Oasis. Give our best to the rest of the team. Congratulations on the win. We'll let you get back to the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.